winds of at least 140 miles per hour from Cyclone Chido left the entire Mayotte island devastated. This is the French Overseas Department of Mayotte, leaving an estimated 1 lakh people without shelter or water and hundreds, possibly thousands, dead. The devastating aftermath of Cyclone Chido, captured on mobile cameras, providing a first-hand account of the destruction wrought upon the French overseas territory. The cyclone, described as the most powerful to hit the region in nearly a century, has left the island in a state of crisis. Local officials fear the death toll could potentially reach into the thousands, particularly in the poorest areas where makeshift housing was prevalent, like you can see in the drone visuals we have for you. French authorities are working to establish an air bridge from the Reunion Island to facilitate the delivery of urgent aid and support to the affected population. The National Gendarmerie drove through the French Indian Ocean archipelago of Mayotte to find overturned containers and flattened homes after Cyclone Chido swept through the areas overnight. People filmed the extensive damage in their neighborhood in Mayotte, the capital of Mayotte. The footage shows widespread destruction along the coastline, with numerous boats destroyed and infrastructure, including a graveyard, severely damaged as well. One resident said, "I thought it was the end for me after the devastating cyclone."
It was the wind blowing, and I was panicked. I screamed, "We need help, we need help." I was screaming because I could see the end coming for me. It smashed right into us here, and to be honest, it was complicated. It was a complete disaster. Lots of houses and even towns are wiped out, especially the slums, because for the houses made of bricks, it's just the roofs.
Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, here's everything you need to know about Mayotte, the cyclone hit French territory. A brief look at the small Indian Ocean archipelago, hit by what local authorities call an immense catastrophe. Now located east of Comoros, about 185 miles from Madagascar, the land area accommodates about 144 square miles. This is 3 times of the size of Paris. And in terms of the population, according to recent estimates, it's about 321,000 people on the archipelago. It was colonized by France in 1843, annexed in 1904, and voted to stay French in 1974 and the 1976 consecutive referendums. France's poorest department out of all, reliant on French aid. 84% of the islanders here in Mayotte live below the poverty line, and over 40% survive on less than 160 euros a month. Now, we earlier heard the French foreign minister speaking from the ramparts of the European Union Parliament as well, speaking about how EU role is going to be equally important in this fight for rebuilding Mayotte. All my thoughts this morning are with our compatriots in Mayotte, who are suffering the tragic consequences of the disaster that has struck the island. Under the authority of the Prime Minister, the government and state services are fully mobilized to provide support, reinforcement and security to our fellow compatriots in Mayotte. This week, we will be working with the European Commission to ensure that European solidarity is in place to support the reconstruction effort that lies ahead. Well, we earlier showed you those visuals as well of French soldiers deploying for Mayotte from the neighboring Reunion Island, and rescue efforts continued today as well to assist the devastated island of Mayotte after Storm Chido hit the French territory. Soldiers were seen boarding the A400M military aircraft from the Reunion Island, like you can see on your screens, a neighbor to Mayotte in the Indian Ocean. An A400M military aircraft was also loaded with aid on an airbase near the city of Orleans as well. Now, the storm was the strongest to strike Mayotte. This is in more than 90 years. French weather services Météo France have also confirmed the same. But the full extent of the casualties and the damage in Mayotte, which lies between Mozambique and Madagascar, remain unclear. Emergency workers sought survivors on Monday and struggled to clear blocked roads, which apparently is the main challenge for the rescue and relief workers, and restore services in Mayotte, France's poorest overseas territory, where hundreds or even thousands are feared dead from the worst cyclone to hit the Indian Ocean islands in nearly a century. French Interior Minister Bruno arrived on the French Indian Ocean archipelago of Mayotte, asked about the death toll from Cyclone Chido. The French Interior Minister said it will be difficult to account for all the victims at this point in time.
Video released on Sunday by the French gendarmerie showed the wreckage of hundreds of makeshift houses after the most powerful cyclone in nearly a century struck the archipelago of Mayotte in the Indian Ocean. A top local official told a local outlet that several hundred, maybe even thousands, may have been killed by Cyclone Chido. Asked about the death toll of several hundred, the French Interior Ministry said, quote, "It will be difficult to account for all victims," and said a figure could not be determined at this stage. Cyclone Chido swept through Mayotte overnight, according to the French Meteorological Administration. The forecaster said the storm brought winds of more than 124 miles per hour and damaged makeshift housing, government buildings, and a hospital, adding it was the strongest storm in more than 90 years to hit the islands. Mayotte's islands have been a focal point for illegal immigration from nearby Comoros. In recent decades, thousands have attempted to cross from Comoros on the east coast of Africa to Mayotte, which has a higher standard of living and access to the French welfare system. According to the French Interior Ministry, over 100,000 undocumented migrants live in Mayotte. Some 77% of the people in Mayotte live below the French poverty line. The cyclone went on to hit northern Mozambique on Sunday.